employed a team of mentors, and it worked against a mentoring model. In the Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire area, the project was known as Young and Successful, and it was funded to the tune of £6.2 million for 5 years. And as I said, it was led by Grindwork Greater Nottingham. I was part of the business development team putting the bid together for the funding, and we quickly found, by doing a lot of detailed research of the NOMIS labour market intelligence data, that we had 20 youth unemployment hotspots where youth unemployment was twice the national average. We did a lot of focus groups and consultations with young people in those areas, and we found there was a fundamental distrust of many agencies, particularly the DWP and the Job Centre, a pervading sense of low confidence and aspirations too, with many young people unwilling to travel outside of their area. We also found that the young people that we're looking to target had a very undeveloped understanding of employer and employee relationships, and when they did apply for jobs, didn't get very far in the recruitment processes, and feedback was generally quite poor from the employers themselves. So they were stuck in a bit of a vicious cycle. They would, well, what we would call distinctly disadvantaged in the labour market. There was a clear gap in the system that if programs like the work program weren't working for these particular types of young people, they didn't have many other choices to move forward. What were the young people telling us at that point in time? Well, they were telling us they were getting lots of information, as you can see from this quote here, but they weren't really being told how to join things up and getting some of the more of the progressive and dynamic support that we started to develop through the project. As one young person said here, I think the information support is there, but it's like giving you the ingredients but not teaching you how to cook. One of the things that I became aware of from an independent evaluation point of view, and also from the former process to support the business development, was this concept of scarring and this danger of scarring, that actually a lot of the young people on the project had applied for jobs and had been continually rejected, and were starting to believe a subconscious lie that they had nothing to offer, that they had no skills, that they were worthless. And you know, scarring is a very real issue within the employability field, and it's always bad. It's always bad for the young people concerned, it's bad for the communities in which they live, and it's bad for the local businesses and employers that need new talent coming through. And this project was very much set up to try to tackle that growing problem of scarring and give young people self-worth and confidence in a place where they could be nurtured and move forward. So how did the project work? How was it structured? Well, we had 6 core principles, which I'll very briefly talk you through now. Every young person had a trusted mentor on the project. It wasn't like going to the job centre where they might see a different advisor each time. It's a trusted mentor who gets to know them and gets to really understand their circumstances and their barriers. We don't make any value judgments or assumptions about where they were at. And what we tended to find was where we thought they were at baseline actually was only part of the truth. By the time you're 2 or 3 months in and they trust the mentor more, you're getting a more of a holistic 360-degree view of what their barriers are, because the confidence and the trust and the rapport is built. We had person-centered provision, recognizing that no 2 young people are the same in terms of what they need to do to develop their employability. And we also had a specialist employment team, because this is not just solely about getting young people work ready. We need to work with employers too to create those starter level roles and work with the friendly end employers who are youth friendly. And there is such a thing as a youth friendly end employer mark now, which came out of the Talent Match project. We also crucially involve young people in programme decision making. So as soon as we'd secured the funding of £6.2 million, there were commissioning panels set up to appoint providers, and those commissioning panels contained both young people and employability professionals, and we equipped and trained the young people in that process, and they brought additional value-added insights into how we commission the service. Similarly, when we recruited mentors, young people were trained up to sit on the actual panels to see whether the mentor who's applying for that role had got that ability, that compassion, that understanding of how to build an effective rapport with a range of young people. Another crucial point was that we contracted and all of the 20-odd mentors on the project were hosted through a known, locally trusted organisation. The youth unemployment hotspots tended to be in inner city areas, outer estates, or ex-coalfield areas. In the case of the High Peak, there's a 1960s overspill estate called Gamesley. And if you do any kind of like social research around the area, you'll find that it tends to appear at the bottom of a range of different league tables, and it's had a history of different bodies and agencies going in for 3 months, doing a piece of work and then leaving, and the locals get very frustrated by that. There is a charity that's been set up called G52, which stands for Gamesley, 52 weeks of the year. They're a continual presence, and they were the organisation who we worked with to place the mentor in that area. And it is very much about being known and trusted is a key part of getting the referrals through, particularly young people that might otherwise be hidden neat. And the last thing, and one of the most crucial things, is that we had a personal budget. Every young person on the project had a notional budget that they could use. That could be used at a subsistence level, just to pay for mobile phone credit or bus fares for them to meet the mentor or stay in touch. Or it could be prepared to pay for clothes to attend a job interview, or in the event a young person secured a job, to pay for uniform or equipment. All those 6 things work together really, really well in unison. What did young people think about the project in reality? There's a couple of quotes here that I'll just leave you a second to read. But it very much does, the model did move away from an advice-based model which mandates young people to do things. It's very much about the young people working with their mentor to devise their own action plan and move forward. Here's some of the stats. I'm conscious we're aware of time, but you get a general feel for the scale of the programme there from that. We did a lot of intense work when I got deeper into the evaluation of what the project data was telling us. And this was when I started to work with Sharon and John Holford from the Enliven team at the University of Nottingham. And I got quite a few ideas about what the data was actually telling us about some of the needs of young people furthest from the labour market. We did some work on decision trees, and we found that 3 factors were crucial as a predictor for young people securing an employment outcome: that they had good levels of mental health, good confidence, and crucially, had they ever worked before. The single most important factor was that they'd ever worked before. And we developed this chart looking at the predictor in importance. You can see a range of different factors on the bottom of the scale there, and we call this on the project team the Blackpool Tower chart, because the importance of ever having worked before stands up like the Blackpool Tower. Whilst that is a fascinating stat to see, it does kind of beg the actual question of what happens to the young people who've not had a track record of actually working. How do they close that gap? And it reinforces the need for this mentor model, for someone to coach them through the steps and remove the different barriers that they might have to get close to the labour market, and hopefully get in a position where they can speak to an employer and land a job. As the evaluator of the project, I also started to reflect on what I was seeing when I met some of the young people on the project, and I reflected on maybe an affinity between distance from labour market and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we started to build on the decision tree analysis work that had taken place. And I could regularly see that, not just for this young and successful project, but for other projects that are delivering an employability support, if an employability support project, certainly working for young people furthest from the labour market, doesn't check that young people are meeting their basic physiological needs or safety needs, and goes straight into the level where they're offering advice and support and guidance and person-centred action planning around CVs or job search, the young people are much more likely to disengage. And what we actually tried to do from a mentoring-based approach was to check that, you know, they were meeting these basic needs. And if they weren't, then the personal budget was there to try to address that. The project also offered a place for young people to belong. Many young people came onto the project were saying, well, they've come out of the schooling system, they're trying to get their working life sorted, but there's nowhere really to belong. They didn't feel that when they went to the job centre they really belonged. They were more worried about being sanctioned or being mandated to fulfil a particular course of action. Ideally, as we start to work with the young people more and more, we want to get them into the level where they start to meet their esteem needs and confidence. And then Actually, we've slightly rebranded and restructured the top of the hierarchy. We've called it a glimpse at self-actualization. And for many young people who were securing their first ever job, they were shocked that they'd managed to achieve that. It was a seminal moment in their life where they needed to reframe their view of themselves. And we were finding that once they got their first job, that was giving them more resilience for the future, because they'd proven to themselves that actually they were worthy of work and they did have something very, very valuable to offer. So getting a young person into work for the first time was kind of crucial for many people. Another slide just to reveal some further insights into the data. We segmented all of the job outcomes on the project in a big league table, looking at how long it took a young person in the number of days since they signed onto the project to the point when they secured their job outcome. And we broke this down into 5 20% quintile bands. So category E, you can see there on the far right hand side, that's telling you that they're the group that are nearest to the labour market. It's taking them around 39 days to get into work. And we were finding that that group was the best group at sustaining a job outcome once they got it, often the group that had worked before. If you go across to the far left-hand side, category A, this is the group that are furthest from the labour market. There's a lot of intense mentoring work taking place, a lot of barriers being removed, but they are persisting with the project. The young people are continuing to come, even though on average it's taking them 538 days to achieve that job outcome. They do eventually achieve it and get there. So we can't be making assumptions about the intensity of need being standardised when we're working with young people from the labour market. That was one of the biggest takeaways that we took from this analysis. There's some things that we need to be reflecting on from an adult education point of view, that certainly not all adults are work ready after leaving the formal education system, and providers like WEA are kind of like crucial, or whoever it might be, to be filling that gap. There is a bit of a systemic chasm for many young people coming out of the schooling system, and they're trying to bridge that gap, and learning to relate to life as an employer is kind of like a big challenge for them. The journeys that each young person needs to take are not standardized. We can't have one size fits all. That just won't work, and they'll disengage. Holistic person-centered provision is what needs to happen. It needs to be community focused. And one of the most concerning things that I found was that if you look at the way the work program was structured at that point in time, it's very much payment by results. Well, payment by results will generally inspire providers around parking and creaming, and that is going to increase the risks of scoring. What we really found over delivering the project was that, yes, there are very definitely ways where we can creatively innovate new forms of provision that are democratic. We can get young people involved in decision-making processes. We can embed the services in the local community, and that mentoring and dialogue very much go hand in hand. It's not about advising and mandating people. I did have a video to show, but I've obviously run out of time, so we'll share the link. I'd encourage you to watch that. It's about 3 minutes long, and it really does capture a lot of the themes around the Maslow hierarchy of needs and the scarring.
I'm Michael Blackwell. My main barriers was confidence and self-esteem, because I had no self-esteem in myself. I didn't think I could do anything beforehand, and I tried to avoid people as much as I possibly could, because I've never been a great fan of confrontation. I think a lot of reasons why young people struggle getting a job is either they lack the motivation to do it, or they just have problems in general, like maybe they're scared of people, or confidence. They have no self-belief in themselves, and they have even less confidence around others. I think it can it can grind people down a lot when they're trying to apply. If they keep getting rejected, they just eventually, I think they just give up. What's the point anymore? Young people need someone there just to help them make sure they're focused on what they want to do, even if it's just a guiding hand to help them, or someone to actually talk to. I think a lot of people feel like they're just stuck in a rut that they can't get out of. My mentors helped me by constantly pushing me and making sure I was doing things that I really didn't want to do, like being around people, and she's been absolutely amazing. She's always been there making sure I'm motivated, pushing me forward to do the things I really didn't like. I think Yaz has been different because it feels like the people here actually seem to like care and be motivated about the people they work with. They want to try and push people forward. It's not just part of their job, it's like they will try their absolute best to push whatever you want to do. They'll be there for you to help you. I think they should keep doing what they're doing because they're amazing. I think the personal budget has made a big difference with helping me be able to travel and get out and see new people and do new things and push myself. Beforehand, I was very limited of where I could go and the things I could do as well, but it makes their life a lot easier. Honestly, without the ESOL project, I don't know if I'd still actually be here, because I was at a very low point in my life. I pretty much gave up on a lot of things, and they've kind of given me hope again and motivation to keep pushing forward. I now actually believe in myself, and I believe I have a future now, which I didn't beforehand. I think it would be good for some people to have ongoing support with the mentors, because it just helps to give them that little confidence that they know someone's still there to help them, because they may be, like, get a bit worried about something. At least they'll have someone to talk to. You're still doing a good job, don't worry, keep going. I couldn't believe it at first. When I first landed my first job, I had the phone call for it, and you made it, you can come through. I was like, wow, this is actually the start of something now. And I actually rang my mentor. Apparently she was running around the office crazy, going, he's got a job, he's got a job. Yeah, I've been loving it ever since now. I've not looked back ever since. I took the dive, and best thing I ever did.
If you'd like more, I can also circulate a copy of the 5-year legacy evaluation report to it. This has just been a quick whistle-stop tour, really.
Thank you very much, Richard. That was brilliant, and it's so